agent. It's not like she worships the devil.
Well, she doesn't have to. He worships her.
So this guy, Frank Marshall, a very famous producer in the film industry, has basically been part of the Indiana Jones franchise team since its inception. In fact, not only was he a producer on the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'll get into that in a minute. He met his wife, Kathleen Kennedy. Now, this video is partially about her and mostly about him. Here they are talking with Steven Spielberg. I don't know when this was taken, but it's obviously old. Frank has hair. And they've known each other for 40 years. Frank Marshall was dragged into playing the pilot of the Flying Wing because a stuntman got dysentery, as everybody on the set but Steven Spielberg, who ate SpaghettiOs through the whole movie, filming in Tunisia. And Marshall just jumped in the cockpit and played that role. And he's been involved with every movie, Indiana Jones movie since then. There he is, coming off the plane. In front of him is Harrison Ford, and behind him is you can't see her, but Kate Capshaw. This is definitely arriving in Sri Lanka for filming Temple of Doom, and that was a tough shoot. Harrison Ford wrecked his back. They had to quit filming for 6 weeks while he got treatment for it. Here they are again. I believe that's Temple of Doom. Yeah, it is, and you can see the extras in the foreground. That's Kennedy and Marshall with George, and it's very interesting to me. I want to show you guys this video that's coming up just because I lengthened the video out, and what I saw, first off, Spielberg, I saw the entire video of the introduction of the cast before John Williams started. And James Mangold speaks, Kennedy does not. He does mention Kathleen Kennedy, but he's the only one. And when Spielberg gets the microphone, he does not. Okay. Now, I'm going to address rumors that there's something wrong with George. I'm not going to comment on his health, but I will show you something bothersome at the end of this. You see the curtain going up. I'm slowed it down, and Kennedy is standing there, and Marshall wants to get off the stage. So Kennedy grabs George and takes him off the stage. Now, does George want to be on the stage? We don't know what's going on here. Marshall says something to his wife, and Kathy immediately goes to George to grab him. Now, I'm not sure if that was kosher for her to do that. Is George not feeling well? He didn't say anything, but when he walked on the red carpet, he was taking selfies with people. Okay, so he's, you can't really tell what's going on here. Fact of the matter is, Spielberg did not mention Kennedy or Marshall. Let me repeat. He did not mention Kennedy or Marshall. And they were standing right there. Okay. George waved to the crowd. Harrison, of course. Marshall clapped for Harrison and George. Kennedy, just a short clap for both, and that was it. And then when the curtain came up, and then when Steven talked about the glue that held the movies together, he said John Williams, And that's when Marshall decided to leave and grab Kennedy, and who was taking George off the stage. So I don't know what any of that means. All I know is that they both looked to be canceled in that moment, because they have been with Spielberg and Lucas and Ford throughout this whole 40 some odd years of making Indiana Jones movies, and he didn't mention them. All right, and that is a public humiliation right there. Now, what they were doing with George, I don't know. Maybe they thought they should take him off the stage, but the fact of the matter is, Harrison and Steven walked up to greet John Williams, who is spry as a kite, but those three did not. And they, Kennedy and Marshall took George with them, which this whole thing is bothersome. But what I wanted to do after seeing the whole video, and the maestro is hitting every beat, what I wanted to do with this is try to figure out what was going on there. Now, Mangold does not have any power at all to cancel anybody in Hollywood. Spielberg does. And as you can see, I have pictures of Harrison with Bob Iger, who was there again. And this time, he had Alan Bergman. This is Alan Bergman with Frank Marshall. Alan Bergman is Bob Iger's major domo. He is the head of film, feature film development, content for Disney. And Alan Bergman, this is a fake smile right here, okay? He's not thrilled. And of course, there's Kennedy with their fake smile, John Williams and James Mangold. I have a lot of respect for James Mangold. Again, he probably doesn't really know what's going on, and if he does, he's not going to say anything. Okay, but fact of the matter is, I watched the whole video again, and you'll see it in slow motion, and I have to admit, when Spielberg says John Williams, Marshall turned around to walk away, and he went to grab his wife, who grabbed George, which is like, it's just kind of odd. And when you see this picture, George talking with Karen Allen, Steven talking with James Mangold, and blocking out Kennedy because she's standing behind him, and George's wife standing behind them, talking to Harrison Ford. Kennedy again is off, like not part of the group. And when I think about this, and the reason why I did this video, is because how much influence did Frank Marshall have with Lucasfilm and how she ran it? And is not mentioning Marshall as well as Kennedy a sign that they're both, Spielberg is done with both of them? These are questions that need to be asked because, Kennedy drove Star Wars into the ground. She drove Willow into the ground. People who haven't even seen Indiana Jones 5 are saying the same thing about Indiana Jones. I don't let critics tell me if I like a movie or not, and nobody should do that. My opinion is, I think Frank encouraged her at times, in the guise of protecting her, which is like, wait a minute. She's a big girl. She's running the studio. And I know she's your wife, but stop white knighting her. Okay? Now I understand why he did that. But if he had any influence in content, casting, writers to be chosen, I don't think that he was the one that chose Rian Johnson. But the fact of the matter is, I do think that Spielberg or Marshall may have had influence in several areas of Lucasfilm, and I think it's become obvious to the powers that be because they're a team. Okay, you don't get one without the other, which is the way it should be. However, if any of the decisions that she made were because he told her to, that would set people off. All right? That would set people off. So I want people to think about where this all started, who started it, and I mean, encouraging Kathy to work with George and maybe he'll, and basically worm her way between George and Rick McCallum. Kennedy would not have thought of that by herself. Her husband would have. Okay, so I want you guys to think about it, and because I think he was the one that has encouraged her to do things that were just so hurtful to the franchise. And, it just shows you where his abilities are, if that's the case. But I guarantee you he encouraged her to usurp McCallum's spot. And this is where all the bad stuff started. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy. صل على النبي يا مهون صل على النبي